Hey, True Believers, Englentine here with another episode of Comic Book Origins, where we take a look at the very first appearance of any comic book superhero, villain, or team. This time around, we are looking at the very first appearance of Moon Knight, created in 1975 by Doug Minch and Don Perlin. At first, it really seemed like they didn't know what to do with Moon Knight. We're going to find out in this first one that he is the villain of the story, hired to take out the Werewolf by Night. And then he was brought back as a demonic apparition of himself. So Len Wein and Marv Wolfman actually liked the character. They decide, okay, wait a second, no, we need to rewrite all of this so he's a hero. And they give him his own backup story in the Hulk. He gets a reputation for being a Batman clone. And then he's given his own series. And in one of those series, he's brought back as a schizophrenic. And the schizophrenia is brought on by the roles he had to play in the past. A very interesting and very strange character indeed. This is a commission video. Usually I say go on over to Ko-Fi. You can commission a video, but I'm closing them down for a while I catch up because I'm far behind, and I want to apologize to everybody for that. And I am going to be working very hard to get these done. With all that aside, let's jump into Werewolf by Night, number 32, the first appearance of Moon Knight. And as always, we take a look at the cover first, and this is a very busy cover, and you can tell right away that Moon Knight doesn't look like the Moon Knight we're going to get. Now, of course, we see the onlookers. They're looking into what looks like a stairwell. That's a stairs on the right side, a garbage can on the left. So they're in front of some sort of apartment building. Moon Knight and Werewolf by Night are fighting, but it looks like Moon Knight, even though they're standing right next to each other, threw a whole bunch of moon blades at him, and Moon Knight must not be good at aiming because his bunching is horrible. One of them, you got one in his right shoulder, then you got a knife in the werewolf's left shoulder, one in his ribs, but there's one in his arm that looks like it would have hit long after the other three because it hit in such a spot on his arm that it would have been as he was reaching for his shoulder. So maybe he was throwing them one at a time. I'm assuming they're bunched because he's got a bunch of knives in his other hands as well. So also we have a young lady laying down there, I guess for eye candy, but she really needs to learn how to put on lipstick because she's got that clown lip thing going on. And the book opens on an old-fashioned splash page. Tough. I usually ain't, but when the full moon pokes its ugly puss into my life, I turn into the werewolf, and nobody messes with a dude dressed in fur, claws, and pure mean. So why didn't somebody tell that to the stalker called Moon Knight? Fast, brutal, and armed with everything to produce a scream, he was wasting me with no doubt about it. And every time I tried to slash back at the weirdo, my hand exploded in a fire labeled Agony. I have to say that's on him. When I shop for Agony, I always pick the one that's labeled Lilacs. Second night, the werewolf whimpered in pain. His hand was broken, shattered, and the blood he wanted to see so badly would be his own. Get up, you mangy freak. Get up so I can knock you down again. Even if his voice hadn't been muffled by a mask, the words would still have been Greek to the wolf. But it was the tone of the Moon Knight's voice which enraged me. So I got up in a lunge. Had the werewolf been able to employ his right hand, perhaps he would have turned his foe's masked face into red hash. And perhaps not. It was called a cestus, as in a glove worn by gladiators in the arena. A cestus is spiked. These spikes were silver. Silver is hell on a werewolf. I hit the filthy alley like an oak felled by a silver lightning, but the lightning wouldn't quit. I hate cowards who run, screams Moon Knight. Okay, if the book continues to do this, I'm going to be a little bit irritated. But did you notice that he's talking about the wolf in third person, then he's talking about it in first person, then for some reason the dialogue boxes change colors? Are we going back and forth from Moon Knight to something? They haven't established anything like that, yet it's changing all in one page. So Moon Knight continues to beat the teetotal hell out of the Werewolf by Night, and this brings onlookers wondering why a silver man is beating a guy dressed like Lon Chaney, get it, the werewolf, And so Moon Knight throws some crescent-shaped blades at him. This confuses the wolf because the moon is supposed to give him strength, not take it away. Moon Knight kicks him to the ground, and that's when the werewolf decides to remember how he came to be in this predicament. We see the werewolf about to attack a little girl, and Buck, the human side of the werewolf named Jack, his best friend, jumps in, but unfortunately werewolf turns on him, so much so that he has to go to the hospital for surgery. Well, the next morning, Jack, of course, being not the werewolf anymore, realizes his friend's not there. He gets a ride home, only to find out exactly what happened, that his best friend Buck had been mauled, and he's, of course, certain that it was him as the werewolf who did it. So he goes to the hospital, and his sister's there, and he tells him that, no, Buck's not dead, don't worry about that, but he is, in fact, in a coma. The girls decide not to be around Jack for safety, understandable, and he decides to go home, where he's feeling bad about his broken hand and everything, but when he gets there, somebody calls out to him. He rounds the corner, and I entered smack into Weirdo. My stepfather looked worried behind him. Hello, Russell. They told me to announce myself as the Moon Knight. Pretty stupid name, but it'll do as far as you're concerned. Yeah? And how am I concerned? Who are you besides a lunar crusader rabbit? His voice was muffled under the silver gauze, which covered his face like ectoplasm. That was something else I didn't like. Let's say I'm a working man, Russell, out to do my job and collect my bread. This particular job started down in the waterfront section. Pretty sleazy place, lots of rats, the stink of filth, brine, and rotting, sagging warehouses. But one of those warehouses is a lot like that book you're not supposed to judge by its cover, because inside it ain't rotting or sagging, and it's the only stink is the smell of money, lots of money. I went there on a tip and found out it was a setup. So, you're Mark Spector. I'm Spector, who are you? We'll get to that in time, Mr. Spector. Right now I find your dossier immensely interesting. Soldier of fortune, mercenary, veteran of 3 African wars, 5 South American revolutions, brief flirtation with the CIA, weapons expert, versatile practitioner of virtually all of the martial arts, ex-prize fighter, Marine commando, for 8 years prior to beating a lieutenant within an inch of his life, etc. So your research department is hot stuff. So what? I was told there'd be money down here. What do I do to get it? Was Moon Knight paid to tell him all of that stuff? This could be the dumbest page. It's like that scene in Airplane. You know, I'm an assassin, and I was hired to kill you by these men I saw in a warehouse, and they were all businessmen, and the guy looked like this, and he looked like that, and he told me to do this. Really, what did they have for lunch? I can't tell you that. It's classified. So Moon Knight tells Jack Russell that they gave me this costume. They offered to pay me $10,000 if I brought you in. You could either come in easy or the hard way. That's when Jack's dad jumps on him and says, "Run, Jack!" And Moon Knight's like, "Dude, you don't have to get hurt. Get off of me." Jack Russell makes his way into the moonlight, which immediately turns him back into the werewolf. He ignores the people around him, but he can't ignore the helicopter that's flying below. Moon Knight declares, and he's just made me a believer in werewolves. Fear and panic scattered around the werewolf. For once, he didn't notice the easy prey. Who'd blame him? His slit eyes were glued to the strange flying thing which chased him, and the weird man thing sliding down from its belly. The Moon Knight's pursuit clinched the fact that my stepfather had been injured, but of course, the werewolf wasn't even aware of Philip Russell's existence. There it goes again. First person, third person. It just... What perspective are we listening to? Who's telling this story? Did I miss something? If I missed something, by all means, I'll say I'm wrong, but... Besides, he had other things on his mind, like the Moon Knight's silver-plated boots. The sound faded, the helicopter left, and the werewolf got wasted. Which brought us back to the present. Moon Knight... Wait, what? Moon Knight gloating as he slowly closed for the end, my hand blistering with pain and my foe's hands studded with silver spikes. I forgot that, yeah, okay, we were alrighty. We were flashing back, now we're back in the present. This is how the book started. Gotcha. I decided never to feel those spikes again. I decided to slash. I decided to slay. You stupid mangy beast, Moon Knight yells and kicks him in the chin. The committee wants you alive, but if you're gonna force me to kill you, they'll settle for what they can get. My decisions were overruled. So the orange boxes are supposed to represent this mysterious third-party storyteller, I guess? So then we cut to a weird particular page where we see someone in the crowd going, hey, wait a second, they might turn on us. We better call the cops. And then we get to the cops and they're like, wait, what? Some comic book dude's fighting a werewolf down in Westwood. A werewolf? That does sound like Northrop's bag. Why don't you call him in? Can't. It's Vic's vacation time, and right now he must be miles away. So we cut to 50,000 feet up. Where will you be deplaning in Haiti, Mr. Northrop? Yes, ma'am, I will. You bet I will. I got business there. For instance, this silver bullet marked with the name Raymond Coker. And then we see some black guy saying, but how did you know? And then some old lady standing near a mask, which is half man, half werewolf. Gisela of the 1,000 years knows all the dark secrets of the soul, my powers of voodoo and the feelings of life from the mask. These are the things. Tell me you are cursed by the mark of the man-beast. That's the way they wrote it, guys. I'm not kidding. And then we cut to a page which is basically setting up subplots. We see Jack's sister, and they're talking about how they're worried about him, and it's like, no, look, he's been through this before, don't worry. When all of a sudden a Frenchman busts in and asks which one is Jack's sister, otherwise both of them are going to have to go with him. And then we cut back to the Moon Knight and the werewolf fighting. I slashed, still favoring my broken hand, and growled in fury as he deftly evaded my raking talons. Where the blazes are the police? What do we pay taxes for? He produced a new weapon now. It looked like a truncheon, and it was definitely silver. Listen, you hairy freak, we could keep this up all night, or you could make it easy and just drop. Maybe it was his words and maybe the punch, but either way, the last straw had fallen, and the werewolf exploded berserk, blasting the Moon Knight with everything he had, and with my right hand. Pain sliced through me like rusty barbed wire laced to a buzzsaw. It filled me. I couldn't see, couldn't move, could do nothing but feel the pain and whine. You know, to be honest, there is a bit of a flowery prose here that I kind of dig on. If they just, you know what, I'll talk about it at the end. I'll just talk about it at the end. Keep moving. And we see that the crowd is actually disappointed that the fight seems to be ending in a tie until Moon Knight knocks the werewolf into in the back of his head with his silver truncheon, knocking him out. We find out that the French guy who kidnapped Jack Russell's sister is French, so nobody pulled any muscles coming up with that name. The helicopter lands, and I guess the werewolf by night is knocked unconscious. And then we see Moon Knight dragging him towards the helicopter. Is he supposed to climb the ladder carrying the werewolf? Why didn't they just... Okay, the cops are coming. All the people are giving them a wide berth. But he's still supposed to have time to get to the ladder and climb up the ladder to get the werewolf in rather than the helicopter land, which would seem to be the right way to go. I felt myself lifted and dragged, my shattered hand scraping across the abrasive concrete, shooting new sparks of fire through my veins, hastening the already swift fate of consciousness. Dimly, I heard the shriek of sirens and the squealing tires. It seemed that if the Moon Knight didn't take me, there'd be others who would. Out of the way, fans. Payday's just around the corner, and I'd rather kill this hairy monster than let these cops cut me off for my bread. Something hot and sweet gurgled in the werewolf's throats over his lips. Then my mind oozed into blackness. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the very first appearance of Moon Knight. So what did we think? Okay, it was actually not a bad story. It wasn't, you know, it's this mercenary gets hired guy. There's a lot of good to it. I did like the fact that yet we have a villain turned hero. That was kind of cool. But he's not really a villain. He's just a mercenary for hire. I guess that would depend on who he's working for, right? Who does number 2 work for? Anyway, overall, though, I did enjoy it. I do have to say that it's an annoying story because of the shifting perspective. The narrative boxes go from first person to third person immediately in the same panel sometimes. And that is just an unforgivable sin, if you ask me. You know, pick a lane, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, what's up? I don't know if that's part of the story, though. I got to admit, I'm not 100% familiar with Werewolf by Night, so maybe the whole story begins with somebody telling about this situation, so it's all in flashback or something like that. But as it is, it's just confusing. Like, obviously, I'm a new reader. This does not make it easy for the new reader to figure out what's going on. But that aside, I gotta say that, like, overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun, if not extremely silly story to be told. But there you go. What can I say? That's my opinion. What is yours? Did you like the first appearance of Moon Knight? Do you like these comic book origin videos? If so, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to click like and share, subscribe if you haven't done it already. Make sure to ring that notification bell and that your notifications are set on all, not only for YouTube, but for Google as well. And because that's what YouTube really cares about. And if you don't mind helping out the channel, go on over to Patreon or to Ko-Fi and drop $1 in the tip jar. It helps keep making videos for you. I'd like to thank everybody who's already done that, and to everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching.